All right, so today we're diving into a really interesting framework. It's designed to put a name to a specific kind of trauma, one that, according to the source material, is not just emotional, but deeply physiological, and frankly, widely misunderstood. So let's get into our explainer of the theory it calls parental discard TM. So is it grief or is it terror? The whole framework really hinges on this one question. It's asking you to stop and think, is that feeling you have just a deep, heavy sadness, or is it something else entirely, something more primal, more immediate? Getting this distinction right, according to the source, is the absolute key that unlocks everything else we're about to talk about. Okay, to really drive this point home, the source material gives us two really powerful metaphors. Think of it like this. On one side, you've got the heavy blanket. You know that feeling. That's the weight of chronic grief or depression. But on the other side, you have the live wire. That's a totally different energy. It's that sudden, almost electric, paralyzing terror. And the whole argument here is that when we mix these two up, when we think the live wire is just the heavy blanket, that's a huge reason people get stuck. All right, so now that we've drawn that line in the sand between the heavy blanket and the live wire, let's dig into how the source material actually defines this different kind of pain. Now, the source material is really clear on this point. I mean, look at this quote. This is not a panic attack. This is not an anxiety attack. It's making a very bold claim here, saying that what's being described isn't something you can just label as standard anxiety and medicate away. Nope. It's being framed as a totally distinct trauma response, something with its very own biological signature. And here's the name the source gives this whole neurological experience: parental discard. So what does that actually mean? Well, it's defined as the physiological cost of what it calls parental erasure, basically the physical toll this takes on the body. And this whole model, this framework, it's positioned as something that's filling a major gap in the research, putting a name to an experience that it claims science hasn't really mapped out or even fully acknowledged yet. Okay, so that's the what. But what about the why? Why does the body react like this? This next part gets right into the source's biological explanation for it all. I mean, this slide just lays it all out, this internal war that the source is describing. So the argument goes like this. A parent's brain is hardwired for connection. It's a permanent feature. So when a break happens, that wiring is just screaming, mend the break, fix it. But at the exact same time, you get this massive flood of adrenaline that hijacks the heart and signals a mortal threat. So you have these two powerful opposite signals clashing. What's the body supposed to do? Well, the only thing it can do, according to this, is discharge that emergency voltage. And that comes out as tears, as muscle stiffness, a total physical release. And here's where it gets really interesting. This model says the reaction, that huge discharge, it isn't immediate, it's delayed. For the first few days after a trigger, it claims the body's vagus nerve, which is a huge player in our nervous system's calm-down response, is actually working overtime to contain the threat. It's holding it all in. But it can't hold it forever. It's only later, maybe day 4 or even later, when your defenses are finally down, that the whole system floods. It's this idea of a buildup, and then the dam breaks. And to make this less abstract, the source shares this incredibly specific image, this memory fragment that it says was released during one of these discharges. Your red-haired grandson in a black hat walking up a hill looking back at you. Now, this isn't presented as a conscious thought, like you're sitting there reminiscing. No, the idea here is that the nervous system itself is pushing out this highly charged image as a way to process the trauma. It's all about turning it from something you are forced to relive over and over into something you can simply remember as a fact. A huge difference. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution, right? What do you do when one of these acute episodes hits? Well, the next part of this framework lays out a very specific step-by-step protocol for managing it. And the method has a name, the adjacent pathway. I actually think the name itself is pretty clever. It suggests the goal isn't to just build a dam and block the flood head-on. Instead, it's about creating a new, safer route, a different neural pathway for all that intense energy to travel down. It's a simple 3-step protocol, and it's designed to move you logically from the body up to the mind. You start with a physical intervention, the temperature reset. Then you move to a physiological change with the cognitive switch. And you finish it all off with a powerful psychological re-anchor, which it calls the POD override. So how do you actually do it? Here are the instructions, straight from the source. Step 1 is the reset. You apply something cold, like an ice pack, to the left side of your neck, right under the jaw. This is what it calls the circuit breaker spot, and it's meant to send a direct "you're safe" signal to that vagus nerve we were just talking about. Step 2 is the switch. You start a specific breathing pattern, a 4-second inhale and a longer 6-second exhale. This is all about physiologically calming your body down. And then the final step, and this one is crucial. Once you're calm, you speak the code override out loud, a new truth, like, "they are not safe for me anymore." The whole goal is to create a new connection in your brain, pairing this state of physical calm with that new cognitive anchor.
And this right here, this is the entire point, the end goal. The framework is really, really clear that this isn't about erasing the memory or trying to rewind your brain. That's not the goal. It's about remapping the circuits. It's like diffusing the bomb. The memory is still there, but you've cut the wire to the emergency charge. It becomes just a fact that you can look at, not a flood that completely washes your way.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We've seen the problem, the biology, the solution. Let's put all these pieces together and look at how this is all presented as a formal and, importantly, a protected framework. So, first things first, parental discard term. See that little TM symbol? It's presented as a trademarked term, not just some casual phrase someone came up with. And again, it's defined very specifically as the physiological cost of parental erasure. The source material is also insistent that this is not the same thing as estrangement. It sees that as a completely separate experience. This is the map out of the chaos. I mean, that quote really says it all, doesn't it? This is how the whole framework is positioned. It's not just an abstract theory for academics. It's being offered as a practical guide, a map, to help people navigate what it describes as this incredibly chaotic and previously unnamed internal world. Now, as part of its structure, this whole model is very centralized. It directs anyone looking for more information to one single official place. The source material is explicit. The full manual, the protocols, all of it is available exclusively at parentaldiscard.com. And this brings us to a really critical piece of the puzzle here. This source material itself includes mandatory legal notices. You can see it right here. It specifies that final redirection to the website we just mentioned, and very importantly, an IP warning. It states, and I'm quoting here, that this framework and specialized language are protected intellectual property, and that any mimicry, distortion, or redistribution will be treated as a violation. This isn't just fine print, it's a core part of how this entire framework is presented to the world. So let's leave it with this thought. The framework we just walked through does a few very specific things. It offers a name, a biological explanation, and a step-by-step coping protocol for a very specific type of suffering. But it also wraps all of that up and packages it as a protected asset. And that raises a really big final question for all of us to think about. What does it mean for a traumatic experience to be defined, put into a manual, and then protected as intellectual property?